People don't just vanish, at least that's what we tell ourselves. But sometimes, reality doesn't care what we believe. One moment, someone is running errands, heading to work, or stepping outside for just a second, and then they're gone. No bye, no explanation, just an unsettling silence where they used to be. These disappearances don't just break families, they leave behind endless questions, eerie loose ends, and mysteries that may never be solved. From a pilot who vanished mid-flight to a child who walked out the front door and never returned, these 15 haunting stories will leave you questioning how someone can simply disappear into thin air. Number 15. Rebecca Coriam. Rebecca Coriam had what most would call a dream job, working on the Disney Wonder cruise ship, traveling the world, living at sea. But in 2011, that dream took a dark turn. One moment she was on board, the next she was gone. Security footage shows her last known moments, pacing near a phone, visibly distressed. Minutes later, she walked off camera. And that was it. Disney's official statement? She fell overboard. But her parents weren't buying it. There were no witnesses, no alarms, and, most suspiciously, no real investigation. Was it an accident? Was it a suicide? Or something more sinister? The cruise line seemed more interested in controlling the narrative than finding the truth. The lack of answers only fuels speculation. One thing is certain. Rebecca's case is a chilling reminder that even in the happiest place on Earth, darkness can lurk just below the surface. Number 14. Zeb Quinn. Zeb Quinn's disappearance feels like something out of a crime novel, except this nightmare was real. It was the year 2000. The 18-year-old had just finished his shift at Walmart in Asheville, North Carolina, and planned to meet his friend Robert Owens to check out a car. But something was off. During their drive, Zeb received a page, pulled over, and seemed visibly shaken. Without any kind of explanation, he sped off. That was the last time anyone saw him. And just 2 days later, Owens called Zeb's workplace to say he was sick, on Zeb's behalf. Suspicious? Well, absolutely. Then things got super weirder. Zeb's car was found abandoned with a bizarre set of clues. A pair of lips drawn in lipstick on the windshield, a live puppy inside, and items that didn't belong to him. Years later, Owens was charged with Zeb's murder, but the case remains murky. The why, the how, and where his body is, still unanswered. Number 13. Frederick Valentich. Some disappearances feel straight out of a science fiction movie. Frederick Valentich's case is one. In 1978, the young Australian pilot was flying over Bass Strait when he radioed in with a chilling report. A mysterious aircraft was following him. Not just following, hovering, with strange green lights. Moments later, his voice came over the radio again. "It's not an aircraft." Then, a loud metallic scraping sound. And just like that, Valentich was gone. His plane vanished without a trace. Despite extensive searches, no wreckage was ever found. Skeptics argue he got disoriented and crashed. But others, especially UFO enthusiasts, believe his last words hint at something far stranger. Valentich himself was charmed by UFOs, only adding to the speculation. Did he crash? Or did he encounter alien stuff? With zero evidence, his disappearance remains one of aviation's most unsettling mysteries, forever caught between fact and the unknown. Number 12. Ryan Chambers. In 2005, 21-year-old Ryan Chambers left for India in search of spiritual enlightenment. But somewhere along the way, his journey took a turn into the unknown. Traveling with his friend John Booker, Ryan initially embraced ashram life, until something changed. He became restless, sleep-deprived, withdrawn. Then, on August 24th, he walked out barefoot, wearing only shorts, leaving behind all his belongings and a cryptic note. "If I'm gone, don't worry. I'm not dead. I'm freeing minds. But first, I have to free my own. That was the last time anyone saw him. Search teams combed the area, but Ryan had vanished into thin air. Some believe he succumbed to the wilderness. Others think he wanted to disappear. Nearly 20 years later, his family is still waiting for an answer, wondering if his search for enlightenment led him too far, or exactly where he meant to go. What do you think? What happened to her? Well, let us know. Number 11. Ylenia Carrisi. Ylenia Carrisi had the kind of life most people dream of. As the daughter of Italian music legends Albano Carrisi and Romina Power, she had fame, fortune, and a future paved in gold. But she didn't want a predictable, glamorous life. She wanted adventure. In the early 1990s, Ylenia left behind her studies at King's College London and set off to explore the Americas. That journey ended in New Orleans, where everything took a dark turn. On January 18, 1994, she vanished. She had been staying in the French Quarter with a street musician, Alexander Masakila, a man with a disturbing reputation. When she stopped calling home, panic set in. A security guard later reported seeing a woman matching her description jump into the Mississippi River. But was it really her? No body was ever found. Masakela was questioned but never charged. Ylenia was officially declared dead in 2014, but what really happened to her remains a mystery. Number 10. Jean Spangler. Jean Spangler had all the makings of a Hollywood star until she walked into the night and never returned. It was 1949. The 26-year-old actress and dancer left her Los Angeles home, telling her family she was meeting her ex-husband about child support, then heading to a film shoot. But she never made it home. Days later, her purse was found in Griffith Park. The strap was torn, like someone had ripped it from her hands. Inside was a chilling note addressed to Kirk, mentioning a Dr. Scott, two names that sent rumors flying. Some say Kirk was Kirk Douglas, the legendary actor, but he denied knowing her. Others believe Dr. Scott was an underground abortionist, since Jean had been 2 months pregnant, a dangerous secret in an era when illegal abortions were common. Or was it something darker? The mafia? A jealous lover? Jean Spangler's disappearance became a Hollywood legend, a mystery buried under secrets, scandal, and silence. Whatever happened that night, Tinseltown never told. Number 9. Lars Mittank. Lars Mittank's disappearance plays out like a psychological thriller with no ending. In 2014, the 28-year-old German was vacationing in Bulgaria's Golden Sands when an ear injury forced him to stay behind while his friends flew home. That's when things got strange. Alone in a cheap hotel, Lars called his mother, whispering in fear. He claimed he was being followed. He didn't say by who, just that he was in danger. Then came his final known moments. Security footage from Varna Airport shows Lars standing in the terminal, then, without warning, sprinting. He bolted through the airport, vaulted over fences, and disappeared into the nearby woods. No shoes, no bags, just pure terror. No one has seen him since. Some believe he suffered a sudden psychotic break, possibly from his injury. Others think he really was being followed. The internet is flooded with theories, but no real answers. Lars ran into the unknown that day, and whatever he saw, it took him with it. Number 8. Marjorie West. Some disappearances never fade, and you can surely say this was one of them. She was just 4 years old, out on a peaceful spring picnic with her family in Pennsylvania, picking flowers like any other child. Then, in the blink of an eye, she was gone. Her sister Dorothea left for only a moment, but when she turned back, Marjorie had vanished. The search was massive. Planes flew overhead. Bloodhounds combed the woods. Thousands of people scoured the area. But they found nothing. Not a shoe. Not a single clue. Some believed she wandered off and got lost. Others suspected something far worse, that someone had taken her. Years later, a man named Harold Beck theorized Marjorie had been kidnapped and raised under a new identity. A woman named Sylvia London reportedly confessed to being Marjorie before her death in 2009, but no proof ever surfaced. To this day, Marjorie West remains missing. Where she is, no one knows. Number 7. Bobby Dunbar. In 1912, a simple family fishing trip in Louisiana turned into one of history's strangest identity mix-ups. Bobby Dunbar vanished near Swayze Lake, sparking a desperate search. Then, a breakthrough. Authorities found a boy resembling Bobby in the care of a traveling handyman, William Walters. Walters swore the child wasn't Bobby, but Bruce Anderson, a boy raised by Julia Anderson, who also claimed him as her own. The Dunbars, convinced he was their missing son, took him home. Julia fought for her child, but with no money for legal battles, she lost him. And so, for decades, that boy lived as Bobby Dunbar, until the truth finally surfaced. In the 2000s, a DNA test shattered the illusion. He wasn't a Dunbar at all. Julia had been right all along. The real Bobby Dunbar was never found. One lost child became two lost families, and a century later, justice still hasn't come for either. Number 6. Margaret Fox. In 1974, 14-year-old Margaret Fox did something countless teens have done. She placed an ad offering babysitting services to make some extra cash. But this gig was different. It ended in a nightmare. A man calling himself John Marshall set up a meeting in Mount Holly, New Jersey. He sounded polite and trustworthy. Then Margaret vanished. When investigators traced his phone number, they found it led to a supermarket payphone, a dead end. Days later, her family received a chilling ransom call demanding $10,000 for her safe return. But the caller, like John Marshall himself, disappeared. No leads, no arrests. Just a void where Margaret used to be. Decades later, she's still missing. A haunting reminder of how quickly trust can be shattered. Sometimes the most innocent choices lead to the most devastating ends. And the scariest part? The answers may always stay just out of reach. All right, guys. Now, let's talk about number 5. Harold Holt. Harold Holt wasn't just any man. He was Australia's Prime Minister. Then, in December 1967, he went for a swim and never came back. A sitting head of state disappearing into the ocean? It sounds like a bad conspiracy theory, but that's exactly what happened. Holt, an experienced swimmer, ignored warnings about rough waters at Cheviot Beach and dove in. His friends watched in horror as the waves swallowed him whole. The search was massive. Navy divers, helicopters, everyday citizens scouring the coast. Nothing. His body was never found. Officially, he drowned. But unofficially, theories ran wild. Some say he faked his death. Others believe he was a Chinese spy who defected via submarine. Even aliens got thrown into the mix. The truth is probably simple. A reckless decision met a tragic end. But when a prime minister vanishes without a trace, the legends will always outlive the facts. One day, maybe the whole world may vanish. Number 4. Weldon Kees. Weldon Kees was the kind of man who left a mark. Poet, novelist, painter, musician. A creative powerhouse. But his mind? That was a different story. Beneath the success, Kees was restless, tormented by something even he couldn't put into words. On July 18, 1955, his car was found abandoned near the Golden Gate Bridge, the world's most infamous spot for disappearances. The assumption? He jumped. But nothing about Kees was predictable. Friends whispered that he had talked about vanishing, maybe starting over in Mexico. He'd been acting strange, detached. Did he plan his own escape? Or did the weight of his own mind finally pull him under? No body, no note, no final act. just an empty car and endless questions. His poetry still lingers, full of haunting lines about loneliness and loss, almost as if he always knew he'd leave behind a mystery even greater than his words. Number 3. Maura Murray. Some missing persons cases fade with time. Maura Murray's only gets more haunting. In 2004, the 21-year-old nursing student emailed her professors a fake excuse about a family emergency, packed her car, and drove into the snowy wilderness of New Hampshire. That night, her car crashed on a rural road. A passerby stopped, offering help. Maura refused, saying she had already called for assistance. She hadn't. By the time police arrived, her car was abandoned, her footprints leading into nothingness. Inside were alcohol bottles, accident forms, and directions to an unknown location. But no sign of Maura. Did she run away? Did someone pick her up? Was she taken? For nearly 2 decades, her case has fueled endless internet theories, but no real answers. True crime communities obsess over every clue, every possibility. But Maura Murray's disappearance isn't just a mystery. It's a puzzle missing too many pieces to ever feel complete. Number 2. Lord Lucan. Lucan wasn't just another missing person. He was a living scandal before he even disappeared. A British aristocrat, a gambler, and a man drowning in debts, he became infamous in 1974 when his nanny, Sandra Rivet, was found brutally beaten to death. His estranged wife, Veronica, barely survived a similar attack and named Lucan as her assailant. Then, he vanished. His blood-stained car was found abandoned, but he was nowhere to be seen. Theories took on a life of their own. Some say his wealthy friends helped him escape to Africa. Others believe he threw himself into the sea. Over the years, alleged sightings popped up everywhere, from Australia to quiet English towns, but nothing was ever confirmed. Did Lucan cheat justice, or did guilt drive him to an early grave? Decades later, his disappearance remains one of Britain's greatest unsolved mysteries, proof that sometimes the rich and powerful don't just get away with crimes, they disappear entirely. Number 1. George Mallory and Andrew Irvine. In 1924, British climbers George Mallory and Andrew Irvine set out to do the impossible, conquer Everest before anyone else. The last time they were seen, they were just 800 feet from the summit, fighting brutal winds, exhaustion, and thin air. Then, they disappeared. For decades, their fate was mountaineering's greatest mystery. Did they reach the top before vanishing into the ice? Or did Everest claim them before they could make history? The answer seemed lost forever, until 1999, when Mallory's frozen body was found, perfectly preserved. A puncture wound on his forehead suggested he had fallen, his ice axe betraying him at the worst possible moment. But Irvine's body and their camera were never recovered. If they made it to the summit, history never recorded their victory. Everest, as always, kept its secrets. Mallory and Irvine's story isn't just about ambition. It's a reminder of how close triumph and tragedy really are. If you have enjoyed watching this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon in the next one.